Alright, so let us start by admitting it. Last week's episode set the bar so high, I think it was the best episode since the beginning of the series, so this one was definitely never gonna match up to our expectations if we were expecting it to be anything like last week's episode. I mean, episode 5, that was a one, maybe two times in a lifetime of a series event, and if it were to happen again, it wouldn't really be the episode that follows right after it. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another one of my The 100 reviews and episode 6 of season 7, otherwise titled Nakara. Now we know what the title is all about. The title is about Clarke and team on that other planet, the planet known as Nakara. So as opposed to a lot of other episodes where the title is extremely creative, this one is pretty straightforward. This is the name of a place, but the place itself is not really all that simple or all that straightforward. Okay, so let's start with the usual and the rating of the episode. Last week's episode was a 9.5 on my scale, the 100 scale. Watching it again, I realized, okay, this is the best episode I've watched so far on this series, so I'm thinking it is the 10 out of 10 of the 100, and until something better comes along, I think this one should be the yardstick. Now, compared to that yardstick, I'd give this episode a 7.5, maybe an 8 out of 10. I mean, I'd say an 8 because of certain moments on the episode, but not because of the entirety of the episode. Let us though get to talking about the details and start with the reminder of all the arcs that we're dealing with on this season. The very first one of these arcs happens to be the Russel arc. You can call it that, you can call it the Sheidheda arc, or you could call it the Maddie and Indra arc, because on one hand there is Russel, there is the fact that his followers, the believers, the faithful, they're gonna raise hell if Russel dies. There is the fact that he's not really Russel, but rather Sheidheda, and as made obvious on this episode, if anyone were to know, talking about Sheidheda crew over here, and probably everyone in one crew, they'd end up following him, so that would raise hell in a different fashion. But then you've got the possibility of labeling it the Maddie arc, the Indra arc, because yeah, we know that these two people, out of everyone who's there on Sanctum, has got history with Sheidheda, with the Dark Commander. But that brings us to the second arc. The second arc is all about everything that's been going on Bardo, the Bardoans. One of the popular theories out there about who these people are has turned out to be true as of the end of this episode, or at least it has a great chance now of being true, unless they were basically throwing us off, but I think it's true. I think we now know who the Shepherd is. And finally, there is the third arc. The third arc is all about Jordan. I'm not really certain how that will play out. I think it's taking a backseat, but Jordan's curiosity is gonna be the end of him, or the end of someone else, but it's gonna bring about a lot of trouble. Okay, so this entire thing about Nakara, the title of the episode, I think that was a little bit of a filler, even though it did give us something solid at the end, something that does fulfill that theory that I was talking about, but I still think it was pretty much a filler. I'll go again into complaining mode. You've got a few episodes left, you're wasting a lot of time on fillers, side arcs and side stories, and that's not good because it worries me you are going to end up rushing the events at the end of the season, the end of the series, if you keep doing this. But alright, I'm gonna give the arc the credit that it deserves. It was entertaining to an extent. It did wrap up one of the side arcs that was started earlier this season, the arc of Raven. I hope she's not as whiny on future episodes. And it did as well give us an answer to one of the theories, telling us that that theory is most probably true. It's also an answer about the people of Bardo. So let us get that out of the way. Now, as indicated by Raven during the first scene we watch on Nakara, the planet is an ossuarium, a place to store the dead, so one big graveyard really. Sorta reminds me as well of what Josephine said last season about being on ice, even though I don't think the Primes ever knew about the stones and about this place. It does as well seem that the one dead body that we see over there is actually a body of one of the disciples, so a Bardoan. Now they've got Nyla with them. As usual, she doesn't have so many lines, so she does say one of a very few phrases for the episode at the very beginning, makes a joke, and even then no one gets it, which is really sad for Nyla. Jordan's bummer was just hilarious, not just because of the context, but because of what followed. Seeing an alien would be awesome. I've read so many comments over the past few days, over the past few weeks, and a lot of people out there, a lot of fans, have got the same sentiment. Seeing an alien on the series would be cool. Watching the trailer for this week's episode, a lot of people actually expected it. But anyway, on the surface, the planet is cold. On the surface, it is a graveyard, but it's not really scary. Beneath the surface though, and I mean it literally, Nakara has got this creepy, horror-esque feel to it. It is indeed an alien in the end, that's what we realize, because it is a creature that no one has seen before, not the kind of creatures you would find on Earth, so an alien creature. And the cave, what they thought was a passage, a cave, was in fact the belly of the beast. To me as well, it does seem like the entire planet is actually the beast. That's the conclusion I came out with by the end of the episode, and that is why the entrance to the belly of the beast was located in a specific place that probably never changes, and that is why the stone is actually located within the belly of the beast. Now, if you're anything like me and you watched this and you're a Marvel fan, you probably thought, oh, Ego, the living planet. But alright though, within said belly of the beast, Raven is having her breakdown for all that happened over the past couple of episodes, and more. All of it really, since the very beginning, all the killing and the murder, all of that stuff. I mean, not the time really, Raven, but you can have it anyway. I think my only problem with that was the timing. I know some people could say, oh, she is being hypocritical, but let us say it is a wake-up call, a moment where you start thinking of all you do and all you've done, and you just have your oh shit moment. What have I been doing? So yeah, it is okay for people to kind of repent or kind of figure out that they've been doing something wrong. But anyway, she's breaking down there. Yet a motivating speech by Clarke and a few shots by the rest later, they're out of trouble. No casualties, the stone is right there within the belly of the beast. But then the sign that we watched at the beginning of the episode, the one that Clarke noticed, the one that she thought she knew from somewhere, the one that no one else noticed because the only two people who could tell what that sign was were not really looking closely, that sign is seen again close to the stone, and this time they do figure it out because now the two people who are supposed to know what this is, they do notice it and they do tell what it is. This is the second dawn. That means that the people from Bardo are all about the second dawn. Probably means that unless again they are throwing us off, but yeah, they are about the second dawn. That also means that the shepherd they've been talking about, the god that they made out of a mere man in Bardo, that's probably Bill Cadigan, the leader of the cult that is the Second Dawn, the man that we've met on a previous season during flashbacks, the one who burned Becca at the stake, or whose people burned Becca at the stake. But yeah, that's simply it. That's 1/3 of the episode. The only part I would have missed about this 1/3 of the episode was knowing about the Second Dawn. So pretty much 30 seconds to almost 1 minute. But okay, the second arc on this episode, the one happening on Bardo, the one that's got to do with Dioza, and later on with the rest of the people, our people, that are on Bardo. Now, I did like that part of the episode. That arc on the episode I don't really like, because I'm a fan of Dioza, I'm a fan of Octavia, I'm a fan of that arc because of how it's been presented on last week's episode, kind of left you wanting more. So we start by getting the other side of the story with Dioza this week instead of Octavia last week. I did not really at all expect that. I mean, I expected they're gonna save Dioza at some point, maybe not save her at all, and that's when we'll see her, and it doesn't matter what happened before, but I do like how all the stories are coming together on the same episode. We got Sanctum, Bardo, and Nakara. Even with my objections about the Nakara part, we've got everything weaved together on the same episode. But apparently Dioza kept resisting the memory extraction, used pain, hurt herself on purpose to stop the people of Bardo from getting what they wanted. I think her biggest fear over there was them finding out about Hope. Obviously, over the course of time, she almost went crazy there. At least I felt that way, but she still resisted. The resilience and the stubbornness are typical traits of the character of Dioza. Long story short though, she tried to escape once and failed. She tried to escape the second time after being restrained and succeeded, and now she's out there. Okay, so her escape is not as early as it seemed at the beginning of the episode, because it is around the time that Octavia was rescued by Echo, Hope, and Gabriel. Okay, so that made their complicated mission, mostly due to its nature, partially due to Echo's action, a lot less complicated. They found the other person that they were looking for, even though there was a third, but they now think he's dead. Talking about Bellamy here. But okay, this is not really the only reunion over there, because there's another one, the reunion of Octavia and Levitt. His realization there could be other ways to live is what he talks to Octavia about. That's why he's a janitor. He's still helping them with the code breaking. They need him for that, as he mentioned. But he does realize now that shepherd stuff, that shit is no good. You know, the fake false man god is absolute bullshit. But if Levitt survives his betrayal this time, you know, his betrayal of the Bardoans, his betrayal of the Shepherd's religion, I could see something blossoming there with him and Octavia. I mean, even she hesitated in punching him this time around, and that's compared to when she punched him on last week's episode, because that time around, it did come easy to her. But anyway though, without going into further detail, let's just say I may have disliked Echo's stupid behavior on last week's episode, you know, at the end of the episode, and even before that, but now I'm extremely displeased with Gabriel. His choice of behavior at the very end of the episode, that was extremely annoying, that was extremely irritating, and it's gonna lead to whatever is gonna come. I know this is part of the story, but he is a know-it-all, and I dislike know-it-alls, you know, people who determine that they are always right. But that also means we move on to the last arc of the episode, the Indra arc, the Sheidheda arc, the Maddie arc, and I really found this to be my favorite arc of this episode. Now, at this point in time, Indra is carrying the biggest burden of all, in my opinion, you know, because of the entire situation with Sheidheda. He's the most dangerous of all enemies that they're probably facing this season. She has got the fear that one crew would end up joining up with him when they know who he really is. She's got the fear as well that once Russel's faithful know who he really is, they would actually burn it all down. So yeah, she's got a good point there. Now Sheidheda, on the other hand, is listening, he's watching, he is observing, he knows all of that, and he is provoking her at every turn, making her realize how vulnerable she is at present time. She's lost control of Sheidheda crew, the armory has been robbed of its guns, she's only got a small base, a small fellowship, while he has the ability to unite a lot of people under his command. I mean, for Indra, and deep down, this must be quite the frightening situation. The appearance of Maddie, though, at the beginning of the episode was promising that she might be key to all of this. That does change because Indra does try and she does fail. Maddie is still so scared. Maddie is still panicking about her experience with Sheidheda on last season. That makes a lot of sense. She's just a girl, she's just a kid, and that is a normal reaction. She cannot take on that kind of responsibility. But circling back to Sheidheda though, the guy's playing a long con. The guy also knows it all, knows the situation really well, he's analyzed it, and he knows how to make his next move. He knows that, you know, the people need a Hedda, her people, 3 people can be Heddas, 3 can claim the command of one crew, Clarke, who on season 3 had the flame plugged in the back of her neck, Sheidheda, who did as well, and was powerful enough to make it back from the dead, you know, resurrected through the flame, or to be more precise, through the mind drive. Last but not least, there is Maddie, and Maddie, as he does mention, is broken. That's pretty clear on this episode, so the challenge now, and in Clarke's absence, is he is the only one who could take over. That's what's scaring Indra the most. What's also scaring her is she knows the people might end up following him. Sheidheda crew definitely will, and then the rest of the grounders will fall in line. The rest of one crew will fall in line. Gotta make 3 comments though about things that I loved about this episode when it comes to this arc. Number 1, I do like the twist here. I've been thinking Russel will have 2 groups on his side, you know, the prime believers and one crew, except for a select few of course, but then now he's about to have the children of Gabriel on his side, and he is going to do that through the loudest of all of the children of Gabriel, Nelson. Now the other thing about this is number 2, I do love the acting by the actor who portrays Sheidheda. I mean, love it a lot more than his acting for the character of Russel. He's really doing a great job there. This version is really entertaining and really interesting. But number 3, that does not negate that the range on this actor is really good. Because Russel was all about mind games, Sheidheda is still about mind games, but also about body strength. and you can see that on this episode. The acting is completely different for both characters. That's one of the best things about it. But finally, number 4, the bit with Murphy and Amori, convincing Indra to become the commander, to become the leader. It makes a lot of sense as well because, yeah, she's been there side by side with a bloodthirsty Octavia in the bunker, and she's the one who's been doing the leading then. So yeah, you would expect that for the woman who's been there for all of it, knows all about leading, knows more about leading than the rest of her people, to be the one to lead them. It makes perfect sense. Her speech was really good, and the one thing I loved the most about it was her statement that there is no commander anymore, but make no mistake, I am in command. That was very powerful, that was very strong, that was very Indra. But anyway though, and before I end this video, there is the entire talk about two minds being unable to share a body, killing Russel's mind. That was the way that Sheidheda made it into Russel's body. There is a little bit of irony there because both father and daughter lost their lives, lost their minds, entertaining as well that the victors were Clarke and Sheidheda. It's like the series is reminding us that this guy could be in a cell, but he's still extremely powerful. And Clarke as well is kind of that powerful. So my 2 cents worth on the entire topic is, after all is said and done, Bardo will take a back seat. I mean, it will be the arc that ends first, and then the final showdown, it's gonna be between Clarke on one end and Sheidheda on the other end. That said though, my work here is done, so let me know in the comments down below what you thought of this episode. Let me know what you think is gonna go down on next week's episode. Do you think Clarke, Raven, and team ended up in Bardo, or did they end up in Skyring, or maybe even possibly they did end up elsewhere, like a completely different planet? Let me know as well if you did like this video by dropping it one of those much appreciated likes, subscribing to this channel, and make sure while you're at it to enable notifications in order to get updates whenever I upload a new video, publish a new community post, or start a new live stream. But until the next time, thank you so much for tuning in to this review, stay safe, and have a great day.